Welcome to our first major art catalogue for 2017, Important Paintings in Contemporary Art. This is a really broad catalogue that the team has assembled from very important early New Zealand portraits that you see behind us here by Lindau, of course, and Louis John Steele, through to contemporary works from a wonderful collection called the Paint and Paper Group that Leah's going to talk about in just a second. All of the works, of course, are on view here at 3 Abbey Street in Newton until the auction is coming Thursday the 6th at 6:30. Catalogues online, of course, and now Ben, myself and Lee are going to talk about a few of the favourites that we have in this wonderful catalogue.
I've talked about McCann a lot on these videos in the last few years, and the simple fact of the matter is we've just been blessed to have some really amazing McCann paintings. This one here, I know that whatever you ask of God, I think is as special as any that we've had. You might notice that this work also comes from 1969, the same year as the Canoe Tainui from the Francis collection. What's even more interesting is that it was exhibited in 1969 alongside the Canoe Tainui at Peter McClevey Gallery. One other work was exhibited in that show that we've also had recently, Can You Hear Me St. Francis, which appeared in our last major art catalogue last year. So within the space of 6 or 8 months, we've had 3 works from what is, I think, inarguably one of the most important shows of McCann's work. Speaking of Peter McClevey Gallery, this work's got particularly lovely provenance from the 1969 exhibition. It was purchased by Peter McClevey, went into his own personal collection where it stayed, I think, until the 1980s, when it was purchased by the current owner who resides in Australia. The work is tough. There's no easy place to enter the work. There's no gentle reference to the land like you get in a lot of McCann works. Rather, the text almost becomes the landscape, and when you look closely, it flows and rolls like the hills of the New Zealand landscape. The work takes its origin from the New Testament story of John and the rising of Lazarus. Jesus, of course, brought Lazarus back after 4 years, and it was a story that McCann felt great affinity with. But as with many McCanns, he doesn't tell the story so much literally, and he leaves a strong element of doubt and of questioning. Just an absolutely stunning work. Another work in the same sort of muted, dry palette is this burnt umber Rosalie Gascoigne assemblage work from 1992. Of course, Rosalie Gascoigne was New Zealand born, but lived and worked in the outback for many, many years. And I think in many ways, what marks her work is truly special is the way that she looks at the landscape. I think far more akin to the manner in which Aboriginal painters look at the land rather than Western Europeans. It's almost as if she charts the land and looks down on it, so we get an aerial view of the Australian landscape.
Over the years, we've offered a collection of a number of art groups at art+object. It's interesting to note that we have got a lot of inquiry around art groups at the moment. I think around 10 years ago, a lot of art groups were being born. Those groups have now matured, and time is coming for the groups to part ways and for the collections to be sold. The Paint and Paper Art Group is a wonderful example of what can be achieved with a collecting group. One of the things that interested me about their collection is that they set their own rules to an extent. They weren't shy to acquire more than one work by several artists. You could look to Fiona Partington and Elliot Collins as an example. They told me that they were interested to track that artist's work over the years rather than being put off by the fact that they had already acquired a work by that artist. There are a number of works by really interesting contemporary practitioners. A striking Wayne Yong painting behind me, I'm sure will catch the eye of many, along with this beautiful, delicate Jude Ray watercolour. Photography was also a focus for this group, and they've got some beautiful examples. There's a lovely Megan Jenkinson, several Fiona Partingtons, as I mentioned, and a beautiful Roberta Thornley.
This catalogue is almost a Michelin guide to the work of Bill Hammond. Bill Hammond is a master of the found object, and this work and another one in the catalogue really show his facility with found material. This is an old canvas awning or a sail or some such, or even a tarpaulin. You can see the tags there, probably a tarpaulin. And this is a work from that key 1990s period where the Buller's Birds works emerged, one of the great painting cycles of the late 20th century in New Zealand art. This is a work of extremely large scale from this period, and the unusual shape and the found material enables this work to do something a little bit more than just, if you like, an ordinary painting within a rectangle or a square. I think this found material, with its patina of age, takes us back into the colonial period of New Zealand in the middle of the 19th century, when Walter Buller author of that wonderful catalogue of New Zealand birds, was doing his thing. And Bulla's thing was A, recording, and B, hunting and stuffing and sending back as trophies the extraordinary range of bird life that was to be found in New Zealand. In this work we see the mania for collecting, the mania for ordering, the desire to understand the new land. And with all its yawning perspective and slightly ghoulish assemblage of dead birds, there they are, the shags, the shag pile on the table there, we see Bulla really called out here by the artist. This is a painting in which Hammond, in effect, confesses on behalf of Bulla the enormity of what he did, but also the centrality of the desire for the new entrants to this land, the new colonists to this land, to really understand New Zealand, unfortunately right down to the bone. Throughout most of the 1990s, Hammond was really consumed by the Bulla's birds works and those works that flowed immediately from there. But what we see as time moves on in the 1990s is that the air and the tone becomes less urgent, less angry, more benign, more calm. So here we are in 2004, and it really is almost a New Zealand fete champetre. It's a lovely, elegant scene. It's a dreamland, neither the past, nor the present, nor the future. It's some other time. And so this work really enables us to revel in Hammond as the mature painter.
We're delighted to offer in this auction 4 works by the very well-known New Zealand modernist painter Francis Hodgkins, perhaps our most successful expatriate painter. Included are 2 beautiful 1922 watercolours, showing Hodgkins' typical lightness of touch and wonderful use of colour. The French painting here, Tabac, is accompanied in the catalogue by a lovely essay by Lawrence Simmons. Most interesting in this painting is the combination, I guess, of graphite and watercolour. Hodgkins merely suggests some of the forms and does so with great skill.
If I know that whatever you ask of God is tough, questioning, pointed and challenging, here is what I think is a very beautiful work by McCann. Sure, it is atypical, I think, the way that he's married the landscape to the strong element of text and this rose garden motif. But having spent the best part of a month with this work now, it just, every single time I look at it, it just gets better and better.
This is the second of these really stupendous Michael Parakofi kit set works that we have offered, that of course are riffing on Gordon Walters. This work is entitled Irititanga. They really are brother and sister. They are variations on the theme not only of Gordon Walters, but also it goes to the heart and soul of this conversation around the whakapapa of Maori imagery. This is a debate that is really storied within New Zealand art history, and here we have this work here, which has got all the hallmarks of a very witty and knowing insertion of the idea of the kit set, the ready-made, the Duchampian ready-made, into a conversation that is New Zealand specific. So what Parakofi is doing here, to my eyes, is internationalising this conversation again in the 21st century.
There are some well-known arts commentators in New Zealand who frequently comment on the disproportionate amount of artworks in New Zealand auction catalogues produced by women as opposed to men, and probably rightly so. But I hope they look closely at this catalogue, because what they will find is we have some superb examples, far more than many, by many of our best female artists. We talked a little bit about the Rosalie Gascoigne. What we have here in this Judy Miller is just an absolute tour de force of contemporary image making. Because although it is a painting, it's also a screen print. Judy Miller, in a shrewd move, moving her practice forwards, has combined the two mediums in a way that just feels entirely harmonious. So what we get is this big, strong gesture a la Roy Lichtenstein, in a powerful painting well over human size. I think it measures about 2.2, 2.4 metres high, and we've got it in this corner of the room. For a flat two-dimensional surface, it absolutely punches out and occupies this whole part of the exhibition just quite beautifully.